What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Laughing Man Network's Fantasycast. This is episode 4.5. We're in week 4 of the 2022 season. We're getting ready for the weekend. And before we do that, we need to know who we need to sell high, who we need to buy low, and who are some of the starts and sits of the week and some of those tough spots we need to figure out this weekend. So before we get started, remember, guys, please hit the subscribe, hit the like button, help us reach more people. We have the WrestleCast, the Gaming Cast. We have the Fantasycast here that we just started. We're trying to provide content to reach more ears, get more people involved that like the same kind of things we do. So hit that subscribe, help us out. We really appreciate it. So let's dive into buys and sells. We're going to start off with sells. These are guys that, they may be some big names that have been helping you out a lot, but they may have some issues somewhere down on your roster where you need to fill in for a running back who got hurt or a wide receiver that got hurt, quarterback, and you may need to move one of these guys down into a package to help you round out your roster. Starting with quarterbacks, big surprise, I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. He's arguably, potentially, maybe the best quarterback, top 2 quarterback in the league. Hard to get rid of a guy like that, but I think if you look at some of the guys you can go out there and get with Mahomes, you may be able to move down to a Tom Brady, who's going to get his wide receiver core back. You have Justin Herbert, who people are having a bad time with right now because he had a down week, maybe 2 down weeks, had that injury. People are kind of funny about it. You may be able to move back a little bit, get Herbert and Peace maybe, or Kyler Murray. He's right around in that same tier. Kyler Murray has the rushing upside. He's not kicking off like everybody thought so far, but he's still going to get Rondale Moore back. He's still going to get DeAndre Hopkins back. So if you can move back off Mahomes, maybe just get a piece thrown in, maybe it'll help you round out your roster a bit. Another guy is Stafford. You may be able to move Stafford over, get a Goff, go get Dak before he comes back, and you may be able to get that same kind of production, even if it is up and down. But you may be able to get a piece thrown in, especially somebody like Dak. If Dak's expected to come back in the next 2 weeks, you may be able to eat a week if you've been winning games, but Stafford's struggling. You don't trust him down the stretch. Try and go get Dak in a piece, somebody who's just trying to win now because they lost Dak early on. Wide receivers, Devin Duvernay. He was a social media favorite coming into last season. Everybody thought he might turn into something, and he has this season. He's turned into a wide receiver 21. He scored 21 points, 12 points, 10 points. It's come down a little bit. He's still producing, but he's only averaging 2.5 targets per game. That kind of efficiency that he's putting up isn't going to be sustainable. As good as Lamar is playing, you have Dobbins coming back. Dobbins is going to catch some passes. So don't expect Duvernay to be able to keep this up. Throw him in a package. Go get somebody that you would like to get on your roster, maybe a bigger name, and throw him in. Make people think you're throwing in just a bonus wide receiver. Make them think they won the trade. But in reality, you can probably move off of Duvernay and grab somebody off of waivers or free agency. Next down, we have Matt Collins. Matt Collins is putting up some crazy numbers. He was the wide receiver 2 this past week, scored over 30 points, had 11 targets, I believe, caught 10 of them. Hunter Renfrow is going to be coming back. I don't trust Matt Collins to continue this kind of production. Renfrow is probably going to steal anywhere from 6 to 8 targets per week, at least. So don't expect Collins to have too much left over. He may still catch long touchdowns, clutch third downs. May still be useful down in the flex some weeks if you need help, but I don't expect Matt Collins to have this kind of production continuously. So look to maybe move him, just like Duvernay, package him, go get a little bit, bigger of a player at a certain position, something that can help you out in your starting lineup week to week. He also has some tough matchups coming up. They've got Denver, Kansas City, Houston, and New Orleans. All have pretty decent pass defenses. So go ahead and move Matt Collins now. If you picked him up off waivers, if you stashed him last week already, show off that 30-point game and see if you can get some really good value back for him. Next, we have Devontae Parker. Maybe you picked up Devontae Parker. You were stashing him down on the bottom of your bench. He had a pretty good game this week. They were missing Jacoby Myers. Aguilar wasn't really involved. Now they have Hoyer in there, so there's no telling what they're going to do. But Devontae Parker did have that big game. You might be able to use him to throw in again as a wide receiver plus a running back to go get a better running back. Throw him somebody who has problems at their flex. Give him 2 receivers for a receiver. Go get a tight end. If you're swapping out tight ends week to week, you may be able to get something decent that you can use some weeks for Parker, because I'm just not going to trust that production going forward. Jamar Chase, this is going to be a surprise to some people. He's averaging 11 targets a game. He's one of the top wide receivers in the league. But the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is hit or miss. They're struggling right now. Joe Burrow sometimes can't get the time to get downfield. So he's still feeding a lot of targets to Chase, but they don't seem to have the same kind of value as they did last year. I'm sure he's still going to have a bunch of pop-off, 30-point, 40-point games even. But if you can move back off of Chase, as say you lost a running back, you lost a tight end or something, you lost a quarterback, move Chase, package Chase up with somebody, or send him by himself and get in 2 guys that you can put in your starting roster every week that will give you some points. Maybe even like go get his teammate Higgins and throw in even an ETN. If you are going to have to get a running back week to week that you're going to have to put in your flex or your running back spot somewhere, pair them up. Make sure they're going to score more points on average than Chase if they're going to be starting every week, and that may be able to help you win some games. So then we got running backs. Devin Singletary. He had a big week. He had 73% of snaps. He had only 9 rushes for 13 yards, but he had 11 targets and a touchdown. Scored 24 points. I don't see that happening too often. I like Singletary. I think he has a decent floor, but they still have so many mouths to feed over there. It's hard to trust that workload. I don't see him getting 11 targets, especially when they brought in Cook, who may get involved in the passing game some more at some point. I don't see this continuing to happen too often. So while he's at his peak, see if you can move him over, go get another running back, pair him up with a Duvernay or something and move up and try and capitalize on this big week. Next, Antonio Gibson. I've said for a few weeks now, I want to move Gibson. I just don't trust the future. He had 44% of snaps this past week in a loss. He got 12 carries for 28 yards, pulled off the touchdown, but he's starting to look like a plotter out there. He's gone from 8 targets to 4 targets to 1 target. They're pulling him from third down. They're putting in J.D. McKissick. Brian Robinson, as we said, is going to be coming back in the next few weeks. So I want to move Gibson now before that backfield's even more crowded and before he strings together 2-3 weeks in a row where he just doesn't do anything. Next up, we got Ezekiel Elliott. He played 64% of snaps this past weekend. He got 16 touches. He scored 14.5 points. He did get his touchdown. My issue is Pollard. He's digging into the touches. He's still getting 14, 15 touches. This past weekend, he went 13 for 105 and had 8 yards per carry. So Pollard right now looks like he's going to be the guy who's going to have a little more upside than Zeke. Zeke's looking kind of slow. He had a decent game. He had 5 yards per carry. But he just looks like he's kind of plodding forward. So if you can move off of Zeke, maybe go get Pollard. Go get another running back who's maybe struggling, Eckler, CMC, somebody who hasn't put up a ton of points so far, and somebody may be willing to move, package Zeke up with somebody and see if you can go get one of those guys if maybe they're down on him. Next, we have tight ends. I dropped Njoku last week, and he had the big week. I'm trying to get him back in some leagues out of free agency, but if you have him already and you have another tight end that you can start every week, go ahead and sell Njoku now while he had that big game. He's playing 90% of snaps. He's the tight end 9. He scored 28 points. That's perfect for a tight end sell. That 28 points is tight end premium. You get a half point extra. So he scored probably around 25 points for most leagues. Go ahead and sell him. Find somebody else to move in there. That offense is hard to predict. They want to run the ball first. Jacoby Brissett, you never know where he's going to go or what the game plan is going to be week to week. So if you can sell Njoku, move over somewhere else, move up somewhere, go ahead and sell him. Again, he's been a sell for me every week. Dawson Knox, still only averaging 3 to 4 targets a game. They have so many mouths to feed over there. I'm willing to sell Knox, move over to a Higbee, Pat Fryermuth, sell Knox off the name in the offense, and see if you can even get an extra piece thrown in. So, those are our sells. To sell people, you also are going to want to buy some people. So these are some guys who may still be on the rise, or maybe some owners may be down on. And to start with quarterbacks, we're going to go Tom Brady. Tom Brady was missing all his wide receivers this past week. He's had a rough start to the season when they lost Godwin. They lost Julio now. Mike Evans had a suspension. Well, Mike Evans is coming back. Julio might be coming back soon. Russell Gage is looking all right. Godwin's up in the air. We don't quite know when he's coming back. But Tom Brady is the GOAT. You need to go ahead and trust him. He's going to bounce back. He's too competitive. He's going to have his wide receivers back. Down the stretch, when they're trying to make the playoffs, he's the type of quarterback that I'm going to want on my roster. So go ahead and buy Tom Brady if you can find somebody who's kind of down on him from struggling the first few weeks. They may be looking at him as not as important. Maybe you might even be able to move a Jared Goff or something. Stafford. Go get Tom Brady if you can. Zach Wilson. He's coming back from his injury. Flacco's been doing all right. Flacco's averaging 14.5 points. He's getting a 300 yards about average per week. Zach Wilson should be a better athlete than Joe Flacco, and it's a pretty good offense. They've got pieces all over at wide receiver, tight end, running back. They're 2 or 3 deep at every position. So I'm willing to go get Zach Wilson, give him a shot. Maybe he can produce for you QB2 value out of your super flex, which is always welcome. Or if he's going to be your third quarterback on your roster, if he does good, you can sell him. Find somebody who's had an injury or has an underwhelming super flex. So I'm all about going to get Zach Wilson right now. People haven't been using him. Maybe he's on a winning team who might not need him, and see if you can go work something out that doesn't cost you too much. Russell Wilson. He's a QB 24 right now. He's got 35 pass attempts on average so far this season. We've seen it from Russell Wilson. We know he can do it. Denver seems to be struggling. You got to remember, it's still early in the season. A lot of players haven't gotten a lot of reps in the preseason, didn't play much. I expect Russell Wilson to come back to form, look a little better as the season goes on. You might be able to get him pretty cheap right now, because I think a lot of people are kind of down and mad about how that Denver Broncos offense is moving. So if you can get Russell Wilson cheap, go try and do it. Stick him in your super flex. I would be completely fine with having Russell Wilson as my second quarterback on my team. So, tight ends. We have Hawkinson. He's a tight end 12 in the season. He's playing about 85% of snaps. He's averaging about 6 targets. Not bad. He's not producing probably how you would like, but the Detroit Lions offense is spreading the ball around. They're getting their running backs involved. They're getting 3-4 wide receivers involved. Eventually, I think it's going to settle in, and Hawkinson is going to get the important targets when they get down into the red zone. Especially right now, they may be missing Swift for a few weeks, so those targets are going to have to go somewhere. Some will go to Jamal Williams, but they may look towards Hawkinson when they get into the red zone now. So go get Hawkinson if you can. Everett was a big pickup for me in waivers the first few weeks. I'm still on him. He's the tight end 8. He's getting about 5 to 6 targets per game. Each of those targets, he's getting about 15 yards per catch in each game. So he's getting downfield. They're getting him the ball. You're getting decent points from him from every reception. and he's got the touchdown upside and a good offense. They had a bad week this week where he didn't do so much. Herbert didn't do so much. They got crushed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I expect Everett to continue to have a good season. He's going to bounce back. Herbert's going to get healthy. So right now, if you find somebody who was down on tight end this past week because the rough game, go get Everett and have a top 10 tight end rest of the season, as we said before when I told you to go get him off of waivers. Now we're going to get into our sits and starts of the week. I'm going to give you each position. I'm going to give you guys that I think you can put into your flexes, your third wide receiver slot, your super flex as far as quarterback goes. I'm not going to tell you guys like Cooper Kupp, Chubb, Henry. You're starting those guys every week. So let's get into it with quarterback. I'm going with my season-long hot take. I'm going with Trubisky this week. The Jets have a decent offense. Their defense is okay as well, but they can, allow some points. So I'm going to go ahead with Trubisky. I think Tomlin reassured everybody his confidence in keeping Trubisky as the starter this season. So maybe Trubisky goes out there against the Jets. Maybe they score some points against each other since Zach Wilson's back. The Jets' offense is pretty decent. So I think Trub can possibly beat the 19. I think he's 19.7 points expected on the week. I think he could beat that. I think we may see a game where he gets a few rushing yards, maybe looks a little more comfortable. Still going to struggle with that offensive line, but maybe we can get 2 or 3 touchdowns out of him. Jameis Winston. I'm willing to start him this week against Minnesota. He's expected to score 20 points. I think that's possible, a hit or get over. He threw for 353 yards last week. I know he threw the two interceptions. I know he's got 4 or 5 interceptions, I think, on the season so far. That's not great. But he did better than he did the week before. And everybody knows he's dealing with this little injury he's got, these little fractures. Olave's stepping up. After a 353-yard performance, I think maybe they can take some good things from that, try and fix some mistakes. Alvin Kamara fumbled the ball. It could have cost them a touchdown down the line. Winston could have been looking at a better game. So go ahead and start Winston this week against Minnesota. Could be a shootout. You're going to try and have a bounce-back game for Kirk Cousins. So go ahead, match him up. Maybe you get 2-3 touchdowns, bounce-back game for Winston. Wide receiver, we got Chris Olave. I'm starting Olave. He had 24 points this past weekend. He's got 13 targets 2 weeks in a row. He's getting 15 yards per catch, which is pretty decent. He's expected to score 12.9 points, so they're starting to expect this from him. But I think he can hit that or beat it. They're getting him involved. Landry's not quite doing so much. And Winston threw 353 yards, so he's still trying to sling it. They're still trying to get downfield. And Minnesota, they might have to keep up with Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins moving downfield. Next is Brandon Cooks. They're playing the Los Angeles Chargers. He's still getting 9.5 targets a game. Off to a rough start so far. He's not what you expected. He's more of a wide receiver, back-end wide receiver 3 than the wide receiver 2 you wanted. But he's expected to score 12.6 points. He had 3 tough matchups the first 3 weeks. It's easing up now. The Chargers aren't scary. They're dealing with some injuries. So I think they may be able to work some targets in, maybe get him 10, 11 targets. I expect him to get going a little better this week. Dortch. Dortch was a big waiver ad the past few weeks. He's putting together 15 points a week. He's getting 7.5 targets. He's expected to score 10.5 points this week. I think he can beat that again, so he'd be good for a flex. Rondale Moore, I don't think is going to be back just yet. So go ahead and play Dortch. Might as well ride him till the wheels fall off and find out what they want to do with them in this offense when Rondale Moore comes back. But for now, he's not, so run Dortch. DJ Moore against Arizona. DJ Moore, he's consistent when he's good, and he's consistent when he's bad. Each game, he's had 6 targets, 6, 6, 6. He's playing 99% of snaps. And he's only expected to score 11.2 points against Arizona this week. I think they have to get him more involved. He's only caught 2 or 3 balls per game. They need to get some more passes to him, get him open, get some confidence going. I think they may do that this week against Arizona and Kyler Murray's offense. Josh Palmer. If Keenan Allen doesn't play, you have to play Josh Palmer against Houston. He's currently he had 8 of 9 targets he caught this past weekend. 92% of snaps. He's only expected to score 9.5 points this week. If Keenan Allen's not playing, play Josh Palmer with confidence. Bateman, Rashad Bateman. He's playing a tough matchup here. He's playing against Buffalo Bills. Some people may be tempted to sit him, but I'm not sitting him. We have MVP Lamar Jackson behind the helm. He's chucking the ball. He's not scared. They're going to have to respect him the entire game. I think Bills might be missing three injuries in their from their defensive backs that they're dealing with right now, at least 2. So they've been playing some rookies at the corner. I expect Bateman to be able to get open a little bit. He's currently getting 28 yards per catch, which is crazy. That's Marquise Hollywood Brown type numbers from a guy who can also catch it short. So I expect him to have a good game this week. Only expected to score 11.5. I think he should be able to get into the end zone and beat that. Running back, we have Dameon Pierce against the Los Angeles Chargers. This past week, he had 60% of the snaps. He had 22 touches, scored 18 points. I can see him doing similar to that. The Chargers, as we said, aren't scary. They got a few injuries they're dealing with. But he's only expected to score 8.7 points. They still project Rex Burkhead to score more. That's not going to happen. Go ahead and get Dameon Pierce in your starting lineup and feel confident about it because it looks like they want to continue to grow with him. Jamal Williams, back up to Swift. You may have been questioning flexing him week to week already, but now put him in. They said Swift is a chance he may not make it back until after the bye week. So if Jamal Williams is getting carries, Jamal Williams is getting 20 touches, I'm starting him. Jamal Williams is a really good running back. He's a great backup. He had 20 carries this past weekend. He had 2 receptions, 16-point average so far. And I'm completely okay with starting him week to week. He can be involved in the passing game, but he's reliable in the running game. The team loves him. The players on the team trust him. So he's going to get a lot of snaps. Feel confident playing Jamal Williams in your running back 2 or your flex spot. Pollard. We talked about Zeke before. Pollard's getting 12 to 15 touches a game. He plays Washington this week. Washington's not a crazy tough defense, but Dallas and Washington games tend to get a little scrappy. I don't know if they're going to be able to throw the ball. Wentz is going to have a crazy game or anything. Cooper Rush probably isn't going to have a crazy game. So I think they're going to have to use Pollard to get open, run some sweeps, get some dump-offs, get him in the open field. And he does the most with his touches. This past week he had 7 targets. He had 7 targets in week 2. He had 8 yards per carry in week 3 versus the Giants. That's awesome. He only got the ball, I think it was maybe 9 times running. He got a couple of targets. But he's doing the most, like I said, he's doing the most with his touches. I'm all about starting him this week against Washington. Khalil Herbert. David Montgomery, was one of my big hot takes for the season. He looks like he might miss. They said he might play this week, but I think he's going to end up missing a game, 2 games maybe. It might be a while before he gets full workload. But Khalil Herbert came on the scene this week, and he went hard. Dude scored over 30 points. He had over 5 yards per carry. They play the Giants this week, who, as we said just a second ago, is Pollard had 8+ yards per carry against the Giants, while Zeke had over 5. Both running backs produced. So even if Montgomery ends up playing, which I don't think he will, I think he can still play Herbert. You can still play him in your flex. But if Monty is out, you're looking at running back one production this week. So start Herbert with confidence. Tight ends, I'm willing to go start Robert Tonyan versus New England, especially if you're not going to have Cobb, Watkins back. His snap share has gone up each week so far. He's got targets this week. This week he pulled in 6 of 7 targets. Their Romeo Dubes is doing all right. He had a great breakout game. He caught 8 of 8 targets. Robert Tonyan's a guy that Aaron Rodgers knows and trusts. He got up to 56% of snaps this week. I think that's going to increase more as he gets more healthy and comes off that injury. So I'm willing to go out there and play Tonyan against New England. Bill Belichick always finds a way to shut down certain players, and that might be Dubes this week. They may give the rookie a hard time, so that may leave Tonyan open for a few plays. David Njoku, he was a sell for me, but if you have him, go ahead and start him. They're playing against Atlanta. He plays 90% of the snaps. This past weekend, he had 9 of 10 receptions that he caught. I don't think Atlanta has a great pass rush. They may not need him to block too much this week unless they're just pounding him on the run game. But Njoku may find some running lanes. He may get into the end zone. May run a lot of routes. So go ahead and play Njoku this week against Atlanta. Tyler Conklin, New York Jets. He's a guy that I've gone and added in 3 different leagues now. He's my starting tight end. I'm rolling with him. The Uzama, they kind of forgot he's there. Tyler Conklin's kind of taken over, and they have the better quarterback showing up. I'm going to see if he gets used as a safety blanket for Zach Wilson. He's playing 90% of snaps. He's getting 8 targets a game, 16-point average. That's elite tight end numbers. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to roll Tyler Conklin out there until he shows me that maybe he's not the player that we thought he was a few weeks ago. Turns out he may just be a stud tight end. Defenses, just going to throw one out there. If you want to start a defense, have some defenses that may not do so great this week. Maybe have the Bills. The Bills are playing the Ravens. You're afraid Lamar Jackson's going to go off on them. You can get the Lions. They're owned in less than 2% of leagues. They're playing Seattle, Geno Smith. They're not a great defensive team, but Seattle's also not a great offensive team. So you might be able to go out there, get the Lions, get a few points, hope for a pick 6. So if you just need help there, go ahead and grab them. I think you can run them out there this week. So our sits, to start all those people we talked about, we're going to have to sit some people. So we're going to start off with quarterback. I'm willing to sit David Carr this week if you have another quarterback that you may be able to slip in there. David Carr is playing against Denver. Denver's put up a lot of sloppy games this season so far in the first 3 games. I don't know if they've allowed anyone to go over 17 points, if I'm recalling. I didn't write it down. But I don't think they're allowing quarterbacks and wide receivers to go crazy on them. So I think Carr could possibly have an ugly game. He's expected to score 21 points. If you can find another option, I'm maybe willing to go Jameis Winston over him this week. Justin Fields is another guy. Justin Fields, I'm not going to play him. He's playing against the Giants. The Giants don't have a horrible defense, but he's only averaging 7.5 completions a game, which is horrible. You do not want that. He's got 4 interceptions in 3 games. He's expected to score 18.2 points this week. I expect that's because of the rushing upside, but no thank you. Next we got Zach Wilson. I'm willing to throw Zach Wilson out there. He's playing against Pitt. He's only expected to score... Sit Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, I want to have on my team, but I don't want to start him this week. It's his first game back playing against Pittsburgh. They have a decent secondary. I'm going to go ahead and wait a week. and get ready for a good run after this week. Wide receivers, we're going Keenan Allen. Go ahead and sit Keenan Allen. He's playing against Houston. If he plays, he's coming off that hamstring issue, and we've seen it before with Keenan Allen. He'll come back from that first week from being hurt. He'll run 2-3 plays, and then he's out for the rest of the game. He takes the rest of the week off. Avoid him. Play Josh Palmer this week. He's expected to score 14 points. I don't think he's going to hit that this week. So go ahead and, if you can, avoid Allen for this first week off of his injury. Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's playing New Orleans this week. He's probably going to draw Marshawn Lattimore, especially if they're going to run Justin Jefferson out of the slot. So go ahead and sit Thielen. You're going to have to hope for a touchdown, and I don't think he can keep up with any top corners. So if he's got Honey Badger covering him over the top or something, maybe Honey Badger's watching Justin Jefferson. Maybe Thielen draws Lattimore. Who knows? But I'm not going to find out. Corey Davis. Corey Davis is a guy you might have been able to play in your flex for a few weeks now. They got a different quarterback coming in, Zach Wilson. I don't know if Corey Davis is going to be Zach Wilson's guy. Flacco was all about him, fed him some targets. But I'm going to go ahead and sit Corey Davis. I'm not that interested in having him on my teams. But I know some leagues are deeper. Some people are struggling. You need those fill-ins. But if you can sit Corey Davis, go ahead and wait to see if Zach Wilson likes him or not. MVS. MVS has been a sit for me every week. I just don't want to play any Chiefs. They, like we said, they spread the ball around so much. I don't know who's going to get it. MVS, I don't think, has scored over 9 points, I think, so far this season. He's getting 6 targets a game. He's only getting about 3 receptions. I'm not very excited about it. He's expected to score 11.3, but he hasn't hit that yet. So, going down, we got Mac Hollins versus Denver. He's averaging 14.7 points per game. He's only expected to score 4.1 this week, but they also probably haven't accounted that, he's been more involved. Renfro might be back this week. And as we said, Denver tends to provide some struggle games. So I'm going to go ahead and sit Mac Hollins this week, even if I had him already. I picked him up. Going to go ahead and sit this one out, see how the target share goes with Renfro. Maybe bounce back next week. Brandon Ayuk, they're playing Los Angeles Rams. He's probably going to draw Ramsey. Jimmy G doesn't move as much to get him open. So he's probably going to have to face Ramsey straight up. Not much scrambling. So I'm going to go ahead and lay off of him. I think it's going to be more of the Debo show. Debo out the backfield. Debo, short hitches and everything else. So just avoid him. He is getting 8 targets the past 2 games, but he only had 3 catches this past weekend. He's expected to score 11.2. He could get that if he gets a touchdown, but I think you can find better options this week. Running backs, Rashad Penny against Detroit. I'm just not interested in starting Penny anymore. Kenneth Walker's getting more involved. He's getting more touches. They're starting to work him in. Penny's only getting 12 touches a game. He's expected to score 11.4 this week, but I don't even think he's hit that yet this season. So don't trust Penny. Go ahead and sit him. See if you can package him up, send him somewhere. I'm not interested. Rex Burkhead, just throwing this out again. He was a drop for me. He's expected to score more points than Dameon Pierce this week, but he's down to 40% of snaps, and I don't think he's going to hit the 11.9 that he's projected to score. So don't play Rex Burkhead. Don't trust him. Sexy Rexy. Not going to do it. Sit the Miami running backs. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Beginning of the season, I wanted Edmonds, but they're using him less and less. They're not giving him the targets that I thought they were going to give him. Mostert continues to plod forward, but you never know when he's going to break one. He had a terrible yards per carry this past weekend. I'm not trusting him. I'm going to let him sit there and wait for someone to get hurt. Maybe somebody gets a lion's share after that. Ezekiel Elliott against Washington. Zeke had a pretty good week this week. He tends to always eat versus the Giants, it seems. But Pollard was, like we said, was stealing touches. Pollard had 8 yards per carry, whereas Zeke had 5 yards per carry. So Pollard's still the more explosive running back. Zeke's expected to score 13.7 points. I'm not sure. He would have to get the touchdown. He would have to get a weird amount of receptions. Gallup might be back. So I'm going to avoid Zeke if I can this week. I understand some people are going to have to. But if you can play somebody else over Zeke, Khalil Herbert, McKissick, Pollard, if you have some of those guys on your team, go ahead and play him over Zeke this week. Tight end, I'm going to sit Logan Thomas, playing against Dallas. Dallas has a decent pass defense. He's expected to score 9.7. I think, again, this is tight end premium points that I'm looking at. So you're looking at maybe an extra point thrown in there, 2 points thrown in there at max. I think Logan Thomas is going to struggle. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think the whole offense for Washington may struggle a bit. So don't look forward to Logan Thomas having a great week this week. Hayden Hurst got hurt last week. He didn't finish the game. They're expecting him to maybe come back this week on a short week. I'm not trusting that. He's playing against Miami. He's expected to score 11.7. He was getting targets the first 2 weeks, but coming off the injury on the short week, I'm going to go ahead on Thursday night, and I'm not going to play Hayden Hurst this week. My sell, Dawson Knox. I'm not playing him. I still want to move him. He's playing Baltimore. Not a terrible defense. They get into shootouts so far this season. Though Knox is still only getting 3.5 targets a game on average. So I'm just not going to wait and see. I think they're going to have to get downfield against Baltimore. I think Baltimore is going to turn around and try and get downfield on them. It's going to be a back and forth type thing. I'm not trusting Knox. I'm going to go ahead and find a better option this week. Defenses. We discussed the Bills just a second ago. Bills versus Baltimore. I'm going to go ahead and sit them this week. They're playing against the MVP. I think Baltimore's got too many ways that they can move the ball. Bills may struggle this week. It may be one of Bills' only struggle weeks, besides last week against Miami. But I'm going to go ahead and sit the Bills this week. Find a better option. Maybe the Lions. Maybe the Bears versus the Giants. Maybe the Giants versus the Bears. Go ahead and play one of those guys and hope for some more points. So that's it, guys. That's going to be the end of episode 4.5. We're getting ready. Week 4. Hope you guys can find some luck, win some games this weekend. And when we come out of it, we're going to hit waivers again on Tuesday. So until then, see you.